ABC News is reporting Iran may be activating sleeper cells outside the country, according to an encrypted transmission that was intercepted by the United States. President Trump's lacing the left for tying the hands of the agencies responsible for monitoring threats like this.
Has Iran activated any sleeper cells inside the U.S.? There's reports that they have pressed that trigger button to activate those cells, at least abroad.
Well, they've been trying for a long time. We've been very much on top of it. One of the things we have to do is get the Democrats to stop the Democrat shutdown, because, as you know, the apparatus that looks into that.
Speaking of terror cells, CNN is trying to play off those ISIS wannabes in New York who tried to use an IED packed with screws and deadly chemicals to murder dozens and level a city block. They tweeted, then deleted this. 2 Pennsylvania teenagers crossed into New York City Saturday morning for what could have been a normal day, enjoying the city during abnormally warm weather. But in less than an hour, their lives would drastically change as the pair would be arrested for throwing homemade bombs during an anti-Muslim protest outside of Mayor Zohran Mamdani's home. CNN later cleaning that up, saying the phrasing failed to reflect the gravity of the incident. It was almost poetic, Greg.
I know. I'm trying to think of how they would have described 9/11 now. Like a group of young pilots unhappy about their lifestyles.
On a beautiful sunny day.
On a beautiful sunny day in September. That is the funny thing about how they did this. They separated the actor from the action with like 3 different sentences. I broke it down here. So they begin, this is the trick. The sentence begins with 2 Pennsylvania teens. Then they pile in all this stuff. They mention their journey, the wonderful warm weather, the time it took, an hour, and then the life-changing moment when they were arrested. Then you get to the part throwing homemade bombs. By the time you get to the throwing of the homemade bombs, you're not sure whether you just read a crime or a short story in the Atlantic. You got to ask, though, why was it deleted? Did they delete it because they realized it was idiotic, or because people mocked it? Because this is where CNN is. They have lost the plot. They don't know what is good or bad anymore. They got to close that thing down and reopen it again. Do it like, you know, when a restaurant gets food poisoning, or when they find a roach infestation. Just shut it down, block up the windows, reopen under a different name, CNNG. I don't know what you call it, but they also should have factored in what would have been, how the story would have been if they actually succeeded. How would their coverage have been if these douchebags had actually killed a bunch of people? You know, the only reason why they could do that portrayal is because these guys were incompetent. They had the luxury of them being incompetent. And I think if these 2 turned out to be trans, CNN wouldn't even have covered it at all.
I mean, you're right. It's like they wrote it like it was 2 trans guys going for brunch on a beautiful morning, and when they got bombed.
And they just happened to get in with the wrong crowd and made a bad decision.
You know, it's Pennsylvania that did it to them.
Well, I was disturbed by a couple of things. One was that one of the lawyers for these 2 said, oh, yeah, I never met him. He had no idea who he was. And I was like, I understand that that's a lawyer. Lawyers at the table. I mean, maybe they're trying to figure out a way to best help their client. But if I were Democrats on Capitol Hill and responsible for the Democratic shutdown of the Department of Homeland Security, when we have activated Iranian sleeper cells around this country, I would say, we got to figure out a way to cut a deal tomorrow. And we have to help the air travelers, yes, but we have to figure out a way to make sure that our men and women in law enforcement and intelligence have everything they need, because they're teenagers, right? Well, where had they gone? They had traveled to Turkey. They had traveled to Saudi Arabia. They had gone away. What did their social media look like? I know that we can't be on top. We can't necessarily know everything that everyone is doing all at once. But if we can connect dots, it will help us prevent this from happening. These guys wanted to kill someone. That's why they're likely to spend perhaps the rest of their life in prison. Because, if they're lucky. Maybe you're right. There's something else could happen to them along the way. As to the CNN thing, I just feel like editors matter, and the industry is changing a lot, and you got to put resources where it really matters, because there's so much disinformation out there right now that if you want to be a trusted brand, then you have to figure out a way to knock the stuff down before it gets deleted. But I'm glad they deleted it.
Kaylee, someone should ask Mamdani, should the Democrats open DHS? If I'm Mamdani and I just got sworn in and then I almost died from a bomb, I'd say open this government up.
Without question. And this comes after Austin. It's like we all forgot about Austin, where Americans literally died. The guy had the ISIS flag. And this is all just in the recent period. You would think Democrats would say, let's solve this. You have millions of individuals who came to this country unvetted during the Biden administration. You had 2 million gotaways. You had 400 people encountered on the southern border on the terror watch list. All of that happened. Trende Aragua came over. MS-13 came over. These people are still in our country. And to think some of them could be motivated by a situation like this, it's a really hot time period on the world stage. We need the Department of Homeland Security open. And I don't think people quite understand. It's not just immigration they deal with. It is CISA. That is the cybersecurity of the United States. It is TSA. We all remember 9/11. It is Secret Service, as the Iranians say that they want to take out Donald Trump again. We just heard that last block. Open DHS. Why you wouldn't? It's just naked political partisanship above national security.
Should it be open?
Should. I think that if both sides are being irresponsible here, and I say both sides, Democrats, some blame the Democrats, some blame the Republicans. The Republicans control both chambers. But if I were the president, I'd bring them all to the White House and say, we've got to at least fund the 2 or 3 agencies that are most critical here because we have a problem. I'd love if you would fund them all. And if we only do it for 60 days and let's figure out, I'm committed to doing some of the things you guys want. If you're willing to do some of the things I want, let's get this done. 2, the intelligence sharing between, I think Paul Maher is one of the strongest and smartest voices around these kind of issues, and I listen to him closely. The intel sharing, the elevating of the threat posture, the utilization, the employment of all these technologies. This is what I'd be calling in if I were the president, all of these AI and technology leaders, not only to say, you guys need to be doing a little more for the efforts in Iran or Ukraine. I'd say, what are we doing to ensure that we know everybody that's gotten in this country the last 5 years? From one of these nations where we think could be targeting our country, be it the Iranian, the Turkish, whatever they may be. We need to be ensured that all of these police forces and these sheriffs all around the country, we're all tied into some database where we all know what's going on, because all they have to do, as Dana and others around the table have said, is be right one time. To me, that is the most important thing we need to be focused on. And if Democrats have to eat a little crow, and if the president has to eat a little crow to ensure that the Department of Homeland Security opens up, please, for the sake of the country, do it.
All right. You have to do what Harold said. We do.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.